the dude has like barely got 2 functional neurons. So, you know, it's like, and he just seems to be at the beach a lot, and
So
he's obviously not in charge. So I mean, when the polls started going low on Biden, he was saying, oh, he's staying in the race, but then I guess the real powers that be told him he's not, you know? It's like,
so who is it
like,
that's behind him? We know Obama, okay, but Obama.
I mean, I'm just as curious as you are. You know, it is as far as I can determine, there isn't any one sort of puppet master. It's more like there's 1,000 or, I don't know, a lot. But I mean, I'd like to talk to them to understand more about, listen, what are your goals, puppet masters? I'm just curious. I mean, maybe I agree with some of them. It's possible. But it's just obvious that Biden's not in charge. It's obvious that Kamala's not in charge. I mean, they just replaced the Biden puppet with the Kamala puppet, very obviously. And so you can tell, like, if the teleprompter stops working, then the puppet breaks. And it's like, oh. the puppet just starts looping because the teleprompter broke. I don't have a teleprompter. I can just talk like a normal human. So I mean, I think it's not, from what I can tell, it's not one puppet master, it's many, but, you know, interesting to see the crossover between the Epstein client list and Kamala's puppet masters. I bet there's a lot of names that appear in both lists. You know, I definitely, you know, the focus right now is making sure that Trump wins the election. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And I think if Trump loses, we're going to see, you know, our cities are going to get less safe. The border's obviously going to be wide open. We're going to see government spending go ballistic. It's inflation go nuts. It's going to be just bad on every level. And like fundamentally, if the current trend of you know, strangulation by overregulation is not turned around, we'll never get to Mars. It just will be illegal. And then we'll be a one-planet civilization, or it won't be a space-faring civilization, and Starfleet will never be real. And we want Starfleet to be real. Yeah. We should, in my view, we should only do paper ballots hand-counted. That's it. I mean, I'm a technologist. I know a lot about computers, and I'm like, the last thing I would do is trust a computer program, because it's just too easy to hack. It's too easy to add just one line, and it's really difficult to hack paper ballots. So, you know, in-person voting with you know, proof of, yeah, with ID, which, by the way, every country has. I mean, like almost every country that has democratic elections requires in-person voting with voter ID. This is weird. It's super weird to not have that. I think that's the only way to effectively address fraud. I think if there's 4 more years of sort of the Kamala sort of puppet regime, they're actually going to legalize so many illegals in the swing states that there won't be swing states anymore. And this will be the last election in that case. And will be a permanent one-party state like California. And you know, in California, California, which is mind-blowing, they passed a law banning voter ID for any election in California whatsoever. Now they're going to try to do that nationwide. In fact, if they can, they will do it nationwide. If the Dems win, they'll ban voter ID nationwide. So that's why I think if Trump doesn't win, this is the last election. Yeah, thank you. Because what I see happening is that the Dem administration is bringing in vast numbers of illegals deliberately into swing states. The numbers, if you say like over the past 3.5 years, I think it's like there's like a 500% increase in illegals in swing states. What a coincidence. Now, when you look at margins of victory that may be 10, 20,000 votes, and then you bring in
200,000 illegals and you legalize them, which is exactly what the sort of Kamala puppet regime will do over the next 4 years, then you won't have any swing states. Every state will go blue. And then we don't have a democracy. We will be a single-party state.
They're doing it in Pennsylvania.
And they're doing it in Pennsylvania, big time. So that's why I think if Trump is not elected, I think this is the last election where we have a two-party state. And yeah, so. I mean, I got a bunch of sort of nutty stories, you know. Some of them are, I guess, kind of funny. There's, you know, we had to do this. SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark, and I'm like, it's a big ocean, you know. There's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, you know, this is I think from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, you know, NIMF it's called, you know, they were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you're going to hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, well, fine, we'll do the analysis, and then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. We're like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And then, like they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on the shark data. And so eventually, I think we got the data, and we could, you know, run the analysis to say, like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data. And then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because I look at a picture, I don't see any, it's like, you can't, where's a whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like the odds are so low. You know, it's like Final Destination, the whale edition. It's like fate had it in for that whale, you know. And so we had to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, the whales will be fine too, you know. It goes on. And then there's like, well, what if the rocket goes underwater, then explodes, and then the whales have hearing damage? Like, this is real. This is actually, and we're like, look, if we could make a rocket go underwater and be a submarine, that would be like a feat of physics we could not accomplish, okay? This is not how it works. So anyway, just one like crazy thing after another, where, you know, so this is why I'm like really feeling the pain of the overregulation. Yeah, exactly. Twitter files. I mean, it was just nutty. You know, people don't realize just how much you know, government involvement there is in the media, and like how much the government influences the media. I mean, it's crazy how, you know, you'll see, like in fact, I think like whoever's manipulating the media should mix it up a bit, because they're really not doing a great job. Like, you know, when they was a week before the debate between Biden and Trump, and everyone was on the media was saying Biden was sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack. I mean, like you should mix it up a little. Get a thesaurus. Okay. The NBC media puppets were just all saying exactly the same thing. So, you know, it's just kind of strange that, and like, do they all just get the same memo at the same time? I don't know. Where does it come in? Is on the? I want to see the group text. Okay, like, is there like an email copy list or what? You know, everyone say the same thing at the same time. That's a good point. I think teaching kids critical thinking is very important. They should be taught critical thinking. It's like a mental firewall. You teach kids critical thinking at a young age, and just, you know, teach them the types of fallacies that they're likely to encounter, the sort of forms of trickery, like, you know, straw man fallacy, or, you know, sort of there's like the various, you know, ways that
that information, that like media or people will trick you, and just kind of immunizing kids effectively against that, I think early on would be a very good thing to do. Basically, just teach kids, like, don't be skeptical about what you're told. It may be true, it may not be true, or it may be that often there's a certain percentage chance that it is true, and you want to consider the evidence, weigh the evidence to decide what is the probability that a certain thing is true or not true. And then when you hear more evidence, then you change the probabilities. I mean, generally, like, I believe in this sort of physics approach to thinking, which is that you're always you're always weighing the probabilities that something is true or not true, or that there may be a third explanation, and be very open to new facts changing your mind. So, I also think that, like, the value of a college education is somewhat overweighted, and I think it's too many people actually spend 4 years, accumulate a ton of debt, and then often don't have useful skills that they can apply afterwards. And I think I have a lot of respect for people who work with their hands, and we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and that's a lot more important than having incremental political science majors, I think. So I think we should not have this idea that to be successful you need to have a 4-year college. That is simply not true. It was kind of a surprise, because it's like, Biden, for example, had that electric vehicle summit at the White House 6 months after getting inaugurated, and specifically excluded Tesla, even though Tesla makes more electric cars than ever. Yeah, it was not cool. And then credited GM with driving the electric vehicle revolution, and that was the second event, and then in that quarter, GM shipped 26 electric cars, and Tesla shipped 300,000. So I'm like, and Tesla's at this point about 140,000 people. It's like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from 140,000 people working hard to make great electric cars. To be sort of cold-shouldered like that for no reason, it's like, what's the deal? That was wrong. A week before the Biden-Trump debate, every media organization was saying that Biden should his attack. It was the exact same words: show his attack, over and over again. Then it became obvious to the public that he was indeed not a show his attack. But then immediately the legacy media pivoted to knifing Biden and anointing a successor. So we see this over and over again, and so anyway, but that's why we need to have the voice of the people, and that's why I felt it was necessary to acquire Twitter and. The whole point of acquiring Twitter was to restore the voice of the people. So. And it's important to note that while the far left activists that used to control Twitter obviously did extreme censorship of voices on the right, there has been no censorship of voices on the left. They suspended a sitting president. Twitter suspended a sitting president, which is insane. But there's been no suspension or censorship or shadow banning or anything of anyone on the left. I've had some exposure to government spending because SpaceX does have a lot of government contracts. There's a lot of work for NASA and for DoD, Intel, and whatnot, and so I've actually seen just the level of waste that happens. And if you talk to people in the government, they actually agree. Yes, this is very wasteful and inefficient. And I'm like, well, why don't we do something about it? But really, in order to do something about it, it has to be a mandate from the top. And if the president is, if we have a great president like Donald Trump,
who's willing to make major changes, and it's difficult because the system will fight you. You know, the system's not going to be like, oh yeah, no, totally, we're totally happy being smaller. that will not be, like the sort of antibody reaction of the system will be quite severe. You know, I don't think it's going to be, they're not going to, you know, like it, basically. So, but you have to have that mandate from the president. And we need a real president, not a puppet, you know. You know, the thing that scares the system, that scares the machine, is that Donald Trump is not a puppet. He's a real person, you know, and he's not beholden to anyone. And that's why you see sort of, you know, that they're trying to kill him, you know. If the margin of victory is high enough, then I think it can exceed any sort of cheating that may take place. So we got to aim for just a massive margin. That's the key. It's really aim for a margin that it is impossible to have any shenanigans. But on the X platform, I certainly would invite people to, you know, if there's any voting issues, you know, if people think there's a fraud, then post the images, post the videos, post the evidence. And let's shine a bright light on, and the brighter the light, the harder it will be to cheat. I built some companies that do a lot of useful things, and as a result, the stock's worth a lot. So that's kind of what happens. It's like, you know, but in terms of personal expenditures, I do not live a particularly, you know, I don't have like a yachts or islands or anything like that. I just work, you know. So, yeah, and then there was like that crazy thing where SpaceX competed for the Rural Broadband Initiative, which, and by the way, I'm actually generally against subsidies and incentives. You know, like we should let taxpayers keep their money, is my opinion. But they had this like $42 billion thing. And we competed, and we won, and we would have actually been able to supply a lot of Starlink terminals to the states that were affected by the hurricanes, and they revoked the award. It's messed up. Like, why? And then to date, that $42 billion program, total number of citizens that have received broadband from that $42 billion allocation is 0. Now that's, if you want to see, the $42 billion for 0, I would call that waste. Yeah, that's waste. That is not a good use of money. You know, so there was also a big government initiative, I think $7 billion, something like that, for a nationwide network of electric superchargers. And I think they had made like 10. And I'm like, this is the most egregious waste of money. And there's so many situations like that. So, you know, it just goes like bureaucrats and consultants, and nothing gets done. And it's wasting your money, which is crazy. So what I'm saying is like this: there's the opportunity to reduce government waste is actually, I think, easy because there's so much of it. You know, it's not like they just don't care about your money, which is messed up. And so I think the Department of Government Efficiency is going to face a target-rich environment for reducing cost.